Hello friends, Sal here and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the recent Death Knight and Paladin mobility changes, as well as how they were updated in the game and why I think that this is a really important thing that hasn't been given enough attention recently. First we're going to talk about the changes, then I'm going to talk about how they hotfix them in, and then finally we're going to finish off by talking and showing basically just them in action. So first off, we have Death Knight mobility. Death Knights are meant to have a lower mobility than other melee classes, which is true with Wraithwalk, but they want to go ahead and buff it a little bit more, so they're going to be lowering the cooldown to 45 seconds, which is just an overall nice little buff, especially for blood decays. Gives them a nice extra amount of time that they could be sprinting essentially. But unfortunately, on a holy side, they're going to be taking the 15% move speed away from Death's advance. But you know, we're blood decay, so we don't have to worry about that very much. And then we have Paladins. So what they're going to do is they're going to make Divine Steed baseline for Holy and Retribution. It's already baseline for Protection. But on top of that, they're also going to do a new talent. It's going to be a Cavalier. Now, Cavalier is going to make Divine Steed have 2 charges. So obviously they're giving Paladins more mobility than Death Knights, because Death Knights, in their opinion, is the least mobile hero in the game, because they have easier ways of slowing and sticking targets to them. So what does this mean? For protection, Cavalier replaces the Blessing of Salvation talent, which is no longer available. Now, it's really hard for me to say that I miss Blessing of Salvation. That entire talent here was kind of a trap in a sense, because you had stuff like Blessing of Spell Warding, which was really good in certain situations, but if you needed Bop, you wouldn't talent Blessing of Spell Warding. And then your choices were Blessing of Salvation, which the only scenario you will ever use that in is with an overgeared tank, or when you're doing Mythic Plus with the little bonus, like the buff to the mobs, that makes it so that your threat is less. That's the only time you'd ever use that. So it sucks that it's gone there, but at the same time, it has one use in the entire game. And Retribution Aura, I've already said enough things about it. I hate that talent. I think it's an awful talent. But they took away Blessing of Salvation and gave us Cavalier. Now, it's actually pretty good for the Paladin, especially Protection, because of a talent that you can take later on, but I'll go ahead and show that a little bit later. I want to get down to the meat of why I decided to make this video. So we're going to go ahead and read this down here. Prior to patch 7.0.3, this change would have required a new patch in order to apply. Fortunately, we have some exciting new behind-the-scenes tech that allows us to make changes like these via Hotfix. As a result, we'll be pushing this to live servers in the very near future. As of right now, August 6th, it's in the game. They hotfixed in a new spell, removed talents for 3 different specs, updated tooltips, and they did that all instantly. If you're an old-time WoW player, your head just exploded. For a long time, tooltips have been something that, there's always been this kind of thing that people say where it's like tooltips lie. If your tooltip says Heroic Strike does 50 damage, you go to a training dummy, you do 1,000 Heroic Strikes, and you make sure that each one of those line up with the 50 damage. Why? Because a lot of times tooltips are not properly updated, they don't have the right values, and what they say is not always what they do. And for a long time, it's been a challenge for developers at Blizzard to keep up with the changing hotfixes and the changes to the game with their tooltips. But we're talking about adding an entirely new spell to the game, one that didn't exist like that. That's insanity. That's a part of the new file system that they went ahead and switched over to. I think in Warlords or like mid-Warlords, but we're finally starting to see the fruits of those efforts. And I actually saw a tweet that Celestalon retweeted. I think it was I can't remember which developer tweeted it out, but basically this is something that's been years in the making, them wanting to be able to do this. And what does this mean for like raiders, at least, and tanks? They now have the ability to, within the same day, update a spell if it's not providing enough protection. If something's wrong with the game, and I'm going to be talking about tanks, but this specifically covers every single class and every aspect of the game, they can update it in the exact same day if there's a problem, if something's not working right, if something is overpowered, if something needs to be nerfed, if something is just broken beyond all recognition, they can just make changes to it instantly. That's a very big thing, and I can't imagine that it's not going to see any play when we get to the nitty-gritty of the mythic race and all that kind of stuff that's going to be happening. So overall, I'm super crazy impressed. I'm super happy about it, and I'm glad that after years and years and years, they finally have this technology at their disposal, and they can update not only tooltips, but add and remove spells in the game when they need to. I just hope they use it for the right reasons. But anyways, now, talking specifically back to Paladins, basically, the reason this is especially good for Paladins, at least Protection Paladins, is the Cavalier talent. Because it synergizes very well with the Knight Templar talent, which of course Knight Templar is going to reduce the cooldown divide sleep by 50% and reduce full damage taken while mounted on your divide sleep by 20%. And with 2 charges, you now have 2 charges of 20% damage reduction for about 3 seconds each, which, you know, it's going to fill in that little gap that I was talking about in my problems with Protection Paladin build, with Protection Paladin video that I did recently. It's going to be nice to have that extra damage reduction, and I think that overall it's going to be a really beneficial thing to them. But anyways, guys, that's just a quick video I wanted to make, just speaking specifically about the way that they've changed how the file system works in the game, and then that little bit of a buff to the Protection Paladin. Pretty happy about it. I don't think it's going to solve all the problems that I had about the Protection Paladin and my concerns with them, but it's a step in the right direction. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys giving me the time to watch the video. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, drop it a like, and thank you so much. See you around.